So I know it can be totally scary to go to your first therapy session, but fear no more, because today I'll be answering your questions about what will my first therapy session be like. This is such a great question, and there are a few things that I want you to know. But first, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I am so glad that you're here. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an update. I put out videos once a week about mental health topics. So grab your cup of coffee and join me. So you've scheduled your first appointment, but what will it be like when you get there? Well, let's start from the beginning. So when you arrive to the office, there may be somebody there to greet you, like a receptionist, but most of the time I find there isn't anybody there because therapists usually have their own little businesses. So if there's not anybody there, just take a seat and wait for the therapist to come out and get you. Sometimes the therapist will have some paperwork for you to fill out, so try to arrive at least 10 minutes early, unless they've already sent you the paperwork ahead of time and you have it all completed before the session. Next, the therapist will come out and greet you, and then you will probably walk back to the office. So once you walk back to the office, you can take a seat and they will introduce themselves and probably ask you something along the lines of what brought you in. And at that point, that's when you'll get to discuss your situation and explain how you're feeling, or what was it that got you to finally reach out to a therapist. Some therapists may take notes in session so that they can help themselves remember the things that you've talked to them about and help develop a treatment plan with you. Other therapists won't write anything down at all while you're there. Don't let this worry you at all. So many therapists are only writing things down for their own memory. Doesn't necessarily mean something is wrong with you. So you're always welcome to ask and see what they're writing down if that's something that makes you a little bit anxious. So some people have asked me if they have to lay down in therapy or if they can just sit. And the answer is that most of the time you'll just sit. Although you may lay down if you're practicing meditation if you want, but you can also sit for that. A therapist will never make you lay down. Most of the time it's just sitting in a chair and chatting like you would with a family member or a friend. I will say though that sometimes I'll work with someone who's having a tough time talking and being seated. And in those situations, I have some fidget toys or balls that we throw back and forth while we are talking. And I sometimes stand up with my clients and throw the ball. And I've even done what we call walk and talk therapy, where you can walk around outside in nature. And this can really help somebody who's super anxious take the edge off. So if you're nervous and you don't think you can sit there the whole time, then tell your therapist and see how you can feel more comfortable in this session. See if they can help you out with that. So you also might be wondering if what you say is confidential. And the answer is yes. Everything that you say in therapy is confidential. However, there are some exceptions to that rule. The therapist will only break confidentiality if you're threatening to harm yourself or another person, or if they feel that your life or safety is threatened. The therapist will be very clear about the rules of confidentiality, and they'll probably have you read and sign paperwork prior to session explaining this. So make sure that you read it over carefully. So you might be wondering, does the therapist have questions prepared, or how do they know what to ask me? And sometimes the therapist will have some questions prepared. Usually this happens in the first session where they want to get to know your history. But most of the time, the therapist listens to what you're saying and decides what to ask depending on what you're saying. So they might ask questions to get more clarification, more information about the situation, and make sure that they understand everything that you're telling them correctly. So if you feel that your therapist got something wrong, correct them or clarify for them. That way they know how to better help you. So once you've had all that, the end of session, the therapist will probably summarize the session, give you an action plan or a homework assignment. It could be something like breathing or journaling. And then they will talk about scheduling your future sessions. At this time, you could probably schedule the session in the office with the therapist, or if you have scheduling conflicts, you can tell them that you'll call them to schedule your next appointment. Either way is fine, whatever makes you comfortable. So although not all therapists are the same, the process is usually very similar. But if you still feel concerned and unsure of what to expect, make sure you ask your therapist prior to your first appointment. Ask them, what should I do when I get to your office? Is there somebody there to greet me? Should I have all my paperwork printed out? And they will be really good about answering that for you. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you've already been to therapy, tell me if you've experienced something differently. I would love to hear all about your first therapy experience. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next week.